You're listening to Well, I Laughed, Part 2 of Word of Mouth. Wok It Out. If we're jumping in right here, we had a hootenanny. We had a time and a half on Friday night, listener. Yeah. And there's a new saying in the group chat. It is, it's her favorite kind of idea. Her own. Hi, good morning. We're recording on a Sunday.
Hello. The day of our Lord.
Someone's Lord. Yeah. Hey, turns out, you know that like small little business complex across the street?
Yeah.
Turns out one of the things that's in there is a church.
Oh, I knew that.
I think I probably had suspicions, but today
it says Methodist Church on the sign.
What building do you think I'm talking about?
Not the one that has the bodega in it. The one that's like kind of across from the beer garden, but like on the other side of the block. It's like literally right there.
Are we talking about my house?
Oh, no.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that really helped
I was like, how did you not know that was a church?
No, the giant building with stained glass and a huge cross on it. Clocked that one.
I was like,
thanks.
Are you stupid?
Yes, but not that. I mean at my house.
Okay.
Across the street, that big parking lot, there's a nondescript white small little office complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things in there is
where
a
the
church.
Escape room is?
Correct.
No, that's a cult.
Escape room's on the basement. This is...
You want to come to church with me? There's also an escape room
Here's
in the basement.
Thing. I want to make sure this is clear, listener. I'm not spying. This is not me spying.
It's hard not to. Your windows point there.
Right. And also, like, truly, I didn't think this is very clear on the podcast. I'm like, diversity makes us stronger.
Yeah.
I like living in communities that are not monoliths, whatever. Though desk in my office directly looks out onto a bunch of really pretty stuff, but also that parking lot. And so I can now tell you definitively that it is a small church of West African congregants.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. No, I know.
Okay.
Which was just really interesting to have as the backdrop to my research this
morning. Also crazy that you didn't notice until today.
Well, in my defense, I'm not really awake super early on Sundays.
Yeah, that's fair.
I was awake super early this Sunday because your boy's story wasn't ready.
I hadn't heard from Grant about recording at all last night or this morning, and I was like, hey.
So you'll see in the story, it's, for us, that classic tale of the topic I thought was going to be long enough, wasn't long enough, but actually was a chapter in a much larger interesting story that then kind of got away from me. And at midnight last night, I was like, I got to go to bed, but I think we have the bones here. I just have to assemble it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need 3 hours in the morning to finish assembling.
Oh my God.
So woke up at 7, got out of bed at like 7:30, 7:40 or whatever, and just kind of hammered it away. Really excited about it. Was able to go to sleep because I did kind of know I had all the information. And then, of course, you do that thing, too, where when you're finally piecing it together, you're like, hold on, let me confirm that. And you're like, wait, what's this? Wait, oh, my God, what? Oh, okay, hold on. So we're going to have to grab this here real quick.
The craziest part is the story that I just did was like the exact opposite.
Oh, shut up, really?
It was like, oh, fuck, another source that doesn't match the original's tale.
I always love that, too. It always makes me, and I think you feel the same way.
Yeah.
I always feel like such like a actual researcher when I can find and identify sources that disagree with each other.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite
things. Oh, that's
things.
beautiful. It's a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So it's been like a really good morning. I've been awake for 4 hours. I will say that. Really good morning though.
Yeah. I just have to relive this for a second. We had a hootenanny on Friday night, obviously. We played a game called Up and Down the River, which we had all played as a group before, and then Casey and I had tried to play it again and found a different set of rules and played it differently. And some of the rules weren't clearly stated when we started playing on Friday. Turns out Grant and I were playing a slightly different game from the rest of the table.
More complex, more challenging. More fun.
Yeah, a lot more unpredictable. And I think some of our more train-loving friends, if you will, really enjoy the predictability of the game. And Grant and I threw a wrench into that, and we didn't know that we had thrown a wrench into that until round 14, which was the last round.
Did some of them yell out loud cheaters. You're cheaters.
They actually tried to disqualify us after the round was over.
There was, hold on, I mean, how many chairs do we have around that table? 6 of us?
Yeah.
There were 6 of us playing this game. I finished 3rd, and I think you were like 4th. We were decidedly average players.
In the middle.
Exactly.
Partially because the way we were playing means that no one can be right. Ever.
Statistically dead center.
Yeah.
Like,
and they were like, our dear, lovely friend Lydia, I love her so much, was like, well, now I kind of want to play it again because I don't actually know how I did.
And also, the game takes like 50 minutes to play in completion.
So long.
And while we had been having hootenanny,
I wasn't playing that again.
Right. And several of us needed to kind of go lie down a little bit in my living room. It was great, though.
Yeah. And then my favorite thing was, we are against guns on this podcast. We think gun regulation is good. However, it's just really funny when someone that you weren't expecting to put down a really like powerful card, high-ranking card, and then everyone around the table who hasn't gone yet has to stare at it. And there's a beat of silence, and Jacob just goes, "She has a gun."
Also, sorry, not to continue to like air out our small, petty, dirty laundry to our listeners, but I will not accept cheating accusations from Lydia and Tyler for 2 reasons.
True.
First, Tyler saw your hand, goaded you to bet more, and then immediately fucked you over.
So fucked up
when you are playing a card game and you look at a different player's cards, that's cheating, babes.
Yeah.
That's
My
cheating.
hand was like I wasn't hiding anything from him.
But still honors code.
Yeah, but also just like don't say anything to me then.
And it crosses the line to be like, I think you could bet more.
Which I would appreciate if he didn't then immediately make it impossible for me to get any points that round.
And second, and here's the thing, my memory is not great anymore. It's Jarlsberg up here, okay? A more expensive style of Swiss cheese. I will never forget one very infamous ski trip to South Dakota where I am winning hand after hand in poker, trying desperately to knock out either Lydia or Tyler, but somehow they always have a couple of chips left, and it's because they were passing each other chips under the table. They had a free exchange of chips, which in poker is not allowed, and it meant that neither one of them ever actually got knocked out, which is like, you know, for the non-cheating players, how you win the game eventually.
Yeah, no, I'm not accepting any. The ending where they all except for Jacob, tried to convince us that their way of playing was better.
Correct.
And you and I were like, hey, that's great that that's the game you enjoy.
Right.
You're not going to convince me that that's more fun.
It's their least favorite kind of cheating. The kind they're not doing.
They didn't do.
Exactly.
We still didn't win.
Also, like, not a barn burner. It wasn't that close.
No, it wasn't.
It's been,
God.
Truly, honestly, it's been such a beautiful, like, 48 hours for me personally.
Yeah.
Sports is back.
Sports is back.
I love college sports. I love college sports so much. I love Nebraska volleyball. I love football of all kinds, okay?
I love taking a nap in the room where other people are watching football.
Waking up, suddenly there's fries and chicken tenders.
Suddenly there's lots of snacks.
Yeah,
and then I can put myself back into a food coma.
Exactly. I'm so happy. I love sports. And then we had the coaches conference on Saturday, which was also wonderful. And nerdy as hell, I know, but I really do kind of love the identity that I hold, at least that I proclaim to hold. Yeah. Which is as a lifelong learner. Like I'm literally in these sessions with like my friends, my peers. Like I've seen some of them do Smirnoff ice chugs before, right? I've brought several of them to some of Denver's most infamous gay bars, right? Like we've gone head to head in rounds. I mean, our students have, and like, we've won some, we've lost some, we've won some, we've lost some, right? Like these are my friends and peers, but I'm like legit in the front row be like, that's such a fucking good idea. Yes. And then, in gifted and talented kids, you're going to understand this. Plus all English majors. The conference also provides me as an educator a chance to flip the script and be like a student. Right. And then raise my hand and ask like a really good question. Go ahead and let that hit your veins for a second, No,
do you listener, do you remember it might have been 2 weeks ago when Grant was during teacher development week or whatever, and he publicly told himself on the podcast, never raise your hand, don't ask a question. And now he's like, yeah, that was a good time.
I will say this. That is profoundly true and deeply wrong. If you are in a high school cafeteria with all your peers contractually obligated to listen to a person who taught art finger painting to third graders for 2 weeks before they became an assistant principal, and now they do the consultant circuit and they make twice as much as you do, and they've never once had to respond to an email, get out of there as soon as possible. Set a fire to the trash can if you have to, okay? You can't. It's mostly soggy from the milk that they won't drink because of the U.S. dairy industry's lobbyist stranglehold over the federal government. Check out the episode The Big Cheese. Anyways, this was a Saturday. Me, all these other speech and debate coaches.
It was him doing what he actually loves.
Yes, but also, crucially, we are all there by choice.
That's crazy. That's even crazier.
Yeah. Years ago, there was this reputation that, because the way that Saturday works is there's 2 sessions and then our like general meeting, because it's basically the only time all of the coaches in the state, or at least those that chose to come, are like in the same room and don't have like students we have to like be coordinating. Like we gotta be humans for 10 seconds. So it goes this general meeting, lunch, and then there's 2 more sessions before they raffle off a bunch of Starbucks gift cards and wine bottles at the end of the day.
Incredible.
Truly. Yeah. They're also like, here's a discount at state, and like some good coaches will try to win that. I'm like Pinot Noir. Yeah. What's that? Is that a Malbec? Yeah, I'm still in. Anyways, years ago, that session was famous for being super fiery because like people would like yell at each other and like disagree and stuff like that. And then the boomers retired.
I'm gonna set myself on fire.
Yeah, and now I like to. And if you're one of my friends who was there, you know what I say is true. If you're one of my friends that was leading that meeting, you know what I say is true. Now it's just basically spoken word email.
So I'm listening to this podcast right now.
So are they.
Yeah. You're not wrong. It's been a while since I've been listening to true crime podcasts. I just like took a break, so I got back into it with it's called Up and Vanished, specifically in the Midnight Sun, the season that they did on that. And their season finale had to get delayed a little bit because like new information came out. And instead of just publishing a 2-minute episode that was like, hey, sorry, the season finale was supposed to come out, but there's new information, so we now are redoing the season finale. Instead, it was an hour-long episode where they just kind of like continued to repeat and echo chamber the same shit, and obviously wasn't edited. I think they like didn't have time or didn't think they had time. And obviously like Payne Lindsay is incredible, but he like, I think he's just too well mic trained, and so he's so mic trained that he'll forget like his next couple of words, and so he'll start the sentence at like 2 words before he stopped again, and instead of editing that out, it was just over and over, like it just kept happening. So that on top of just like, you know, if you've ever been in a meeting with like white male engineers, or there other industries I'm sure also have this, where like they just say the same shit over and over again slightly differently. It was just that, and it was for an hour, and it was like, this was unnecessary. This episode could have been an email.
Yes, correct. 100%.
That's what it felt like.
Spoken word email is now my new favorite phrase.
Spoken word email is iconic.
And something I'm going to be saying all the time.
I'm going to say that all the time now to my boss. My boss is going to die when I say it the first time.
I kind of want a coffee mug that I can bring to meetings at work that just says, I love spoken word email.
I want to put it on a mug and only turn my camera on when I drink from it.
I love spoken word email. I think there's a real merchandising opportunity here.
I think so.
And here's what's even more beautiful.
Yeah.
It came as I sat in the corner, because here's the thing about me, at least when it comes to speech and debate, I do read these emails. I like actually kind of send a handful of them, certainly not the majority, but like I'll send a handful. Yeah. But like I read every single one. Yeah. So nothing was new. So I'm like trying to listen. I have like a free LaCroix in my hand. Yeah. The Iowa State K-State football game's going on. Yeah. And increasingly coaches are moving their chairs behind
closer
me.
So that they can watch behind you.
There's not like a semicircle, but like you are starting to see like a cloud dust kind of consolidation behind me.
So funny.
I got an email from one of the coaches that just said score ? Because he could see the game but couldn't see the score at the bottom.
That's beautiful.
I'm a menace.
Yeah. That's just like, that's humanity. That's jazz.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
so for real. So from kind of Friday start of work
Yeah.
to even up to right now, kind of a nonstop hits for me this weekend, which is fantastic so far.
oh, you did find a new
I did.
thing.
And it's a cliffhanger. Are we going to start finally telling the general public?
You have already broken it. You have not told them about the last print that you found, and you have not told them about the last thing that you found. I think the last thing that you found was a cliffhanger on
Patreon.
the last Patreon.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. If you want to tell them whatever you want to tell them.
So people keep breaking into my house, and it's one of these degenerates, almost positively all
He
of
was
them.
absolutely insane when it was all the people he thought was in on it.
Like gathered
It was-
them in one room.
It was, yeah, it was like Tom, Tyler, me, Jacob, Lydia. And the way Grant found a way to turn off all the lights except for one that's spotlit on him while he was telling us that he thought it was one of us was crazy.
Also, at one point, Tyler goes, I mean, come on, Grant. You know me. Am I the kind of person that would spend money on something like
At some
that?
point, I had to pull
And
him
then
aside and I was
you
like,
said-
stop talking. You're not helping yourself.
Tyler said, am I the kind of person that would spend money to get something printed?
Yes.
And then you, in a very fun state of mind, goes, no, but you'd get Tom to bankroll it. And like all the eyes
Turn to
turned.
Tom.
And it was like a violin, like it was this beautiful moment. Okay, so basically I have this print that says Colorado, and it has columbines, the flower, like weaving through it. And like 2 weeks ago, like a day or two after coming back from the Canada trip, I noticed it was a little bright and that it actually said California. And so I went up there, took it off the back, found the original print, Colorado, and the new one, California, which is the one that was showing. So I kept obviously the California one because I'm not going to throw away free art. But notably, the original print was still available. Like the thief hadn't taken it because I haven't told my friends how much that one cost. So they weren't willing to like risk it like they were with the Ilya Milsteins, which were basically free.
Okay, the artist, I think I found. Sorry, you can keep going. I thought I was logged in.
And then I came back from work one week, or Jacob and Lydia dropping off something for me at school when I was at work.
Right.
And that night I found like a 1-inch tall little like garden gnome or whatever tucked all the way into the back of my closet. Which like, so it's like a small walk-in closet. Sorry. Hair toss. So it's like I turn on the lights and boom, there it is. Can I share that story too?
Yes, yeah.
So the garden gnome was the cliffhanger from the Patreon episode last week. General public, you're now fully caught up as well.
Okay,
Welcome.
the Colorado print that he's referencing is by Paper Finch Design. It's available on Etsy for like $15, but if you want to see what it looks like or you want something similar.
I'm not saying it was expensive. I'm just saying it's not free.
No, yeah. No, I'm just saying it starts at $15.
So there's, Tyler, Tom, Lydia, Jacob, me, you were all at my house. There's frozen pizzas in the oven.
Yeah.
We've been together for a while. We're having a good time. Everyone's laughing.
Yeah.
And Maya turns to me and she goes, hey, go get the gnome. I want to see the gnome. Because I had sent
this was
her
so
a
funny.
photo. So I went up, got the gnome, came back down the stairs. Maya makes eye contact with me, and I just kind of give her be quiet about this for a second.
Yeah.
And I go stand next to Lydia. And while no one else is looking, I kind of look at her and I hold my fist out and I give her the look, and she's like, and I put it in her hand, and then she immediately puts it behind her back.
She's so confused and
then
she's
is,
hiding it from
panicking,
everyone. Yeah.
staring at everybody. And then I go stand next to Maya and I go ahead, Lydia, show what's in your hands. And so she opens it up and I go, does that look familiar to you?
I just wanted to give this to the person who last touched it.
Right. And Lydia was like, no, I don't know what this is. And I go, I literally found it the day you guys were in my house because you needed to pick something up and bring it to school. And then God bless Lydia. Lydia just says out loud, look, I know that doesn't look good for me. That's actually some really strong evidence, but I swear it wasn't me. And then she passes it around because everyone else wants to see it now.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of the evening, we're all joking about everything that's happening. Yeah. And Jacob goes, no, Lydia, really smart to quickly get everyone else's fingerprints on it.
Jacob is Lydia's number one hater sometimes, and I love it.
And then I'm telling them all like the story of like how I noticed that like the picture had been changed differently, and I was like, oh, do you guys want to know like how I knew that like something had been switched? And Jacob goes, was it because it said California? Which actually was like the second or third clue. The first clue was that it was brighter than the original, and that's what caught my eye first.
The second clue was then that the rectangle behind the like print is actually the shape of Colorado, and the actual rectangle that whoever did the print was an actual rectangle and was like not quite the same shape, which is a crazy thing to notice before you notice that it says California.
And in my defense, no one likes to clarify it when a joke is super funny in a group. No one wants to be like, actually. But it's like, no, what you don't understand is I was afraid I was such a dumbass that I bought something that said California on it, and I was now looking for other clues to where it was different because it looks so shockingly similar.
Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with
that's life right now, kind of in a nutshell. My parents think it's super funny. People are like, this is like main character energy, and I go, I know, it's season 3 of Girls.
Yeah.
Get it? That's when she breaks up with Adam.
And we'll see what they do next.
Exactly.
Update you here.
Exactly. I like do want to catch the person because I like want to know all the details. But also like I'm so thoroughly enjoying this mystery right now. It's fantastic. I love every second of it. So that's life right now. That's what's going on in my world.
I'm so excited for one day Grant to actually be fed up and actually start digging really hard. No, actually, I'm not excited for that. He's already a menace right now.
Yeah. And also, I possess immense creativity powers.
I didn't like the
I
way
don't
he
think
said
that's
that.
how I was supposed to. I think it's creative powers is probably what I was supposed to say. Conjugated it wrong.
And I'll remember that. Okay.
This is like my 4th cup of coffee of the day, which is really good. I'm trying to think if there's been any other fun little stories that have happened since. This is it. I'm just going to end with this.
Okay.
And then.
Yeah, we're good.
So we're getting to the end of the first week with students. And I'm aware that some of my students are the younger siblings or younger cousins of older students that I have coached.
Yeah.
Or like are on the team or recently graduated and thus I can like coached against them at my old school. But I have found, first in the program, we call them Nepo babies. We just like immediately call them Nepo babies.
Just call it out.
We're like, we love Nepo babies. We think it's awesome. The Nepo babies loved being called Nepo babies. They love having their own little club and everything. I think it's a huge testament to the activity that families like send children again and again. I found out from one of our seniors that they have a 8th grade brother who now is going to be required to take the class next year. And I'm like, yeah, either your parents really love the program or just love you not being around on Saturday, but one of the two. Anyways,
that's funny.
I never out the freshmen as Nepo babies.
I
wait for them to, because like I get it. It's like your first week of high school. You want to define yourself.
You don't want to do that. Yeah.
And so we're starting to have that happen, and it's fun to watch the juniors and seniors who are completely oblivious.
Yeah. Be like,
start
oh
to
my
figure.
God.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yes.
Wait, your brother is so and so.
Yeah.
And then we had a freshman telling a story to the class as like part of an opening activity, and his story was how his sister turned the wrong way on a one-way and immediately crashed into a car and is like not really taking responsibility, and so now his mom has to drop him off at school.
And now everyone knows who that person is.
So he's speaking, and one of my senior TAs looks at this freshman at the end of the story and goes, wait, what's your sister's name? And he says it out loud. Yeah. And then I immediately see her pull out her phone and start texting. And normally I'd be like, yo, that's not cool. But instead I go, are you texting her? She goes, yeah, that's hilarious. So yeah, just kind of overall, like, life's really fun right now.
We used to have something similar in choir where we would be like, oh my God, you're so-and-so's little sister. There was one family though. I think they were Asian, but I can't remember if it was like Pacific Islander or something like that. They all looked identical. And so
I don't know if we're allowed. I mean, you can say that. I certainly can't.
No, like they like some siblings don't look alike. These siblings were like carbon copies of each other, both in like height and hair length and like their sense of fashion style and like all this stuff. And so fashion style. There was 3 of them. So I never knew the oldest sibling. But when the middle sibling was a senior, the youngest sibling was a freshman. And they couldn't hide from us if they wanted to. Because it was like, oh, you're so-and-so's younger sister.
You're so clearly
and she was
so-and-so.
like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, it's fantastic. I don't know if it was caught on the microphone or not. I was like, wow, like that was a longer catch up than I thought it was going to be. And Maya said,
because you're with friends.
At the conference on Saturday, one of the panels I sat on was like building team culture or whatever. And a lot of the stuff that we had talked about so far was like finding ways to like name and praise student success in the class to like make them feel connected. And I wanted to share one of the things that we do that helps connect everybody together that has nothing to do with results.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, and not to be like the real prize is friendship, but like oftentimes for a lot of our students, like in this activity, the real prize is friendship, right? There's 60 kids in the field and only 6 advance to finals, right? Yeah. And everyone was like, ah, ha, 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 and I was like, And it was Maya.
Okay.
This is my episode of Word of Mouth.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you this fun, silly little question.
Okay.
Maya wrote it into the notes. What is the best thing that communism has ever given the United States of America?
Oh no. Ooh. I don't know.
I just want to hear one guess.
One guess?
Yes, because this is obviously like the opening kickoff to the story.
My first guess was going to be public transit until you said United States.
Also, the first subway was built before the Communist Revolution.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Pinup girls.
What?
I read an article recently. You don't want to get into it.
Like the old-fashioned porn?
Yeah, it was part of like getting war bonds during World War I think.
Well, what's that episode? I can do mine. No, I'm kidding.
I was looking at one of the stories I'm doing soon, and it's like not part of the story, but there was a reference to pinup girls, and like some of the famous ones were used to like raise money for war bonds.
Well, I was really prepared for my answer to be the more interesting one, but that kind of took the air out. No, sorry. The correct answer, the answer we were looking for was modern American Chinese food.
Interesting.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Yep, correct.
Now I want lo mein. Grant, you can't do this to me.
If
it's 11 in the morning.
Well, that's why I don't have lo mein with you right now, because today's episode is on modern American Chinese food and where we get it from.
Okay.
So then here's my next question for you. And this is the last of the question series. How many Chinese restaurants do you think exist in America?
Holy shit. I don't know. Hundreds of thousands.
Okay, that's nuts. That's a crazy fucking answer that you just said. That's like 1 for every 10 Americans.
Yeah, I know.
Insane.
And I stand by that.
I'm bad at math, and even I'm like, that's too high. So the correct answer is 30 to 50,000 Chinese restaurants exist in America.
Okay.
At one point, the pandemic then made it kind of hard for us to track how many Chinese restaurants exist in the 2020s.
Right.
But in the 2010s, there were more Chinese restaurants in America than there were Burger Kings, Wendy's, and McDonald's combined.
Whoa.
And there were more Chinese restaurants in America than there were McDonald's globally.
Oh my God. So just in America.
Just in America.
More than there are McDonald's everywhere.
Correct. It's like one of those fun little things where there's more Irish bars in America than there are in Ireland, you know? America loves Chinese food.
Yeah, we do.
It's obsessed with it. We talk about it all the time. It's like one of our favorite things to talk about.
Someone sent me a keychain that says crab ragoon slut.
Hell yes. Kind of mad they didn't send 2, but I do understand. I can't have a thing that says slut at school. Not anymore.
Not anymore since the incident. To be clear, for legal reasons, there was no incident. I'm just making that up.
Retweet. Yeah. Chinese food is so ubiquitous in America. Yeah. Everyone has like fun, different cultural connections and memories to Chinese food. So for instance, for like my family, Sunday after church, we would drive straight from church
Incredible.
to our local Hy-Vee.
Okay.
Which is a very popular grocery store chain in the Midwest.
Okay.
It's the best way I can describe Hy-Vee to our Colorado listeners is it's like a nicer King Soopers. Okay. So you know how the King Soopers floor is like gray
Or
cement?
Kroger.
You're right. Thank you, Kroger. But like the King Soopers floor is like polished gray cement. Hy-Vee's is like a polished white sometimes.
Oh, fancy.
Their deli is huge and always hot. And like you can see people like actually making
On the
stuff
scale
fresh.
of Kroger to Whole Foods.
Great question.
Where are we?
So you're going to be under Whole Foods.
Okay.
But beating out like Sprouts and
Okay.
natural grocers in terms of like variety and availability. But like when it comes to the hot deli, when it comes to just the hot deli
was gonna say,
specifically, Hy-Vee and Whole Foods are neck and neck.
Okay.
And I think you're going to get a better deal at Hy-Vee.
Yeah. Oh,
Controversial
yes.
to say.
No, Whole Foods is expensive.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Hy-Vee's not cheap, you know?
Yeah.
There were times growing up as a child, I now realize, where like things were thinner than they otherwise were because we were then going to Super Saver.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love as an adult where you're like, oh.
And also, by the way, I used to work at Super Saver.
Yes. That's why we went to Chili's and not Olive Garden.
Right. So we would get their like classic Chinese meal or whatever that came with like fried rice, like 2-3 scoops of whatever, meat you wanted, egg roll or crab rangoon. And then that would be like our Sunday.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, no, and it was like a perfect deal.
Yeah.
One of the documentaries I was watching was shot in 2014, and I like openly sobbed for the prices on all of these menus. Like a lot of stuff was like $5.99, and it's like it felt like when you found out gas was a quarter in 1970. You're like, what are you talking about?
I don't know if you have this memory, but I remember as a kid, like we used to have like a rule that you can't order anything that's over $10 on the menu because like that was where things got expensive. And now it's like, oh, if it's under $20, it's like, what has happened to us?
It wasn't necessarily so much like we were given a price, but all three of us were clearly
it was like that you're aware.
Had internalized that we'd have to ask permission for some of those dishes.
For something at $12.
Right. And my mom never purchased anything at the grocery store that was over $3.
Yeah.
Unless it was like life-saving medicine. So when we go on some of these vacations now as a family, we're like deeply grateful, but it's like there were whole years of my life where I never saw an avocado.
Where did this come from?
Yeah. My mom's like, $1 for a vegetable? I don't think so, right? Like avocado was out of our. In fact, the joke was actually when Allie and I were off at college, like when I moved, it was then just Griffin in the house. They were joking that now that the grocery bill was like cheaper, there were 2 less kids. It was nothing but avocado and salmon. That's all they were going to eat because those were the luxury food items, So that was like my Chinese food connection.
Incredible.
And it's still why Sunday at like 2 p.m. as an adult now, haven't been to church in a while.
Yeah,
right?
you still crave Chinese food.
I'm like, oh, God, I really kind of could go for some Chinese food right now. It's like, I don't have DoorDash. I have the mobile app for the Chinese food place that I like, which is conveniently DoorDash.
It's for me, Subway.
Tell me your childhood Chinese food memories.
Ooh. I used to always go to this Chinese buffet, but that was before we moved when I was like in 2nd grade. I think after that there was a Chinese food place like within walking distance kind of my childhood house called Heaven Dragon. And even throughout college, it was like not far enough away from college to like rule it out as an option. They have the best egg drop soup known to man.
Have you ever made egg drop soup before?
I have actually now.
Shockingly
Crazy.
easy. So good.
So good.
They were skimping on the eggs sometimes.
Oh.
You can load that thing up.
Yeah. I did also learn that. I also learned that if you make the egg things too thin, it does have a weird texture.
Yeah, when you emulsify a little bit too much.
Because I was like, let's just really get this thing going. And I was like, oh, wait, never mind. Now it's just like a smoothie. Yeah, I think Heaven Dragon is my childhood Chinese food place. Yeah,
I love that. Last joke before we really get into the episode, maybe 2. There's this joke that Judaism is about 5,500 years old, and certain kinds of Chinese cuisine is about 4,000 years old.
Right.
Which means for about 1,500 years, Jews didn't have anywhere to eat. I got that joke from a Jewish person sitting next to his rabbi on the documentary that I was watching. That's not an OG for the record. And then one of my favorite TikToks is this person, her hair's up. She's eating her, like, I think it's lo mein out of like one of the classic like takeout containers.
Yeah.
And the caption is like, and then suddenly like you're that cool girl in her 30s eating Chinese food on her couch in like the city that you dreamed of. And I was like, that is me.
That is the
That's
dream.
my identity. Yeah. Okay. So last fun fact. America's oldest Chinese restaurant is located in Butte, Montana.
Wow.
And is titled the Peking, Pekin.
Oh, Pekin? Peking?
You're welcome to talk to the people in Butte about how they pronounce their Peking noodle parlor.
Pekin? Sorry, say it again.
Peking.
Peking? That's weird. That's not at all how I would have thought it was going to be pronounced.
Yeah, crazy how the original Chinese didn't last over a century in Butte, Montana.
It's like being in Buena Vista, Colorado.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it was opened in 1911.
Okay.
It's not the first Chinese restaurant to be opened in America. It's just today, at least,
the oldest one that's still open.
Still opening. And it was open in 2021 when CBS Sunday Morning News did a program on it about
that's
like
awesome.
the COVID and stuff. Yeah. When it was founded, it also had a gambling parlor down below. We're going to get into all of that and more because today, friends, we're going to talk about how we got modern American Chinese food, like its story, the story of Chinese immigrants in America and their like fraught relationship with specifically white Americans, which is 100% white Americans' fault. We're going to get all into that too. So stay with us.
Stay with us.
If you are pausing this right now to order some crab rangoons, I get it.
Please send us some.
I tried to this morning and I was like, that's such a crunchy thing to eat on.
Yeah, it is. I had to tell... Sorry.
Go ahead.
Tyler and I recorded this little thing that may or may not get posted in this century last night, and it's just like a little music moment. But he walked into my house with a peach and a LaCroix. And I was like, okay, you can't eat that on air. And he went, oh, really? And I went, yeah.
Crunchy and wet?
Yeah. I was like, you eat that right now and then we'll go down there. And he was like, oh, okay, why? Do people not want to hear me eat?
No.
It's like, really, they don't.
They do want to see your feet. They don't want to hear you eat. They're a very particular group of people. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, because I was trying to obviously replicate some like magic from cheese caves. But cheese you can put in your mouth and it can quietly melt.
Yeah. And we still got like, people
right
who didn't like that.
We're like
yeah,
and it's just crumbs everywhere. In many ways, Chinese appetizers are the croissants of American cuisine.
Fair enough.
Thank you. All right. We begin in a chapter titled, you're going to really like the chapter titles. When I remember that we are uploading them to Spotify, I actually put effort into how I'm titling it and not just like more crap or talk about this next, which is how I have at times titled chapters.
As long as there's something bolded that I can go by, it's fine.
So, shocking no one, like the story of literally any good food in America, it starts with people coming from elsewhere.
That's crazy.
I know. There's actually going to be a couple of facts that it's like, whoa. Okay. So the first major wave of immigration from China to the U.S. happened in the year 1850.
Wow.
In the year 1850, 20,000 Chinese immigrated to the west coast of the United States.
Okay.
In 1849, there was, so the year before, there was fewer than 1,000 documented Chinese people in the entire United States.
Wow.
20,000 show up in 1 year.
So what happened in China to cause that?
Great question.
Thank you.
Because there's both a carrot and a stick kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
First, the easy answer. 1849, gold is discovered in California. And the California gold rush begins.
Right.
But more interestingly, in China, for like 2 decades up to this point, they had been involved in something known as the Opium Wars.
Oh.
What do you remember from school teaching you about the Opium Wars?
I'm not even going to try and say things because I don't remember. I remember opium was an issue and we probably helped it become an issue.
America, definitely a small portion of that. I mean, small relative, but like the true people at fault are the Dutch and the British.
Right, yeah.
So quick little history lesson. Europeans, specifically Western Europeans, wanted goods out of China, like tea and porcelain, which we call China because it was from China, because Europeans are great at naming things. But China was like, hey, we've seen your stuff and we're good. Your stuff is ugly and gross and not fine and delicate like ours, the older civilization in the world.
Yes.
We don't want any of that. So Britain was like, okay, I have a plan. I'm going to take my massive army and conquer Afghanistan. I'm then going to take full control of the poppy fields, which is a flower. Mm-hmm. We're going to turn that into heroin and then take that heroin and bring it to China, where we will then get the Chinese addicted to it.
So opium is heroin?
Opium is, so like heroin and contains like opiates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think, how is this? At this time, it's just opium. I think heroin becomes kind of like more of like a 20th century drug.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about the 19th century. But I'm going to say right now, not fully on board with that answer. I don't know.
You don't know how heroin and opium are related.
Correct.
That's fine.
But opium is the big thing in China because the British were like, well, if you don't like any of the stuff that we have, what if we forcibly got you addicted to drugs?
Ha-ha!
What about that?
Would that be good for you?
Listen, this is going to sound crazy.
I love when sentences start with that.
Okay, this is a scene from Family Guy, and I'm so sorry. But Lois kidnaps a girl in this episode, and she has her like chained up in the basement, and like Lois is trying to get like an answer out of her or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's like, listen, I'm going to start putting nicotine patches on you and then not give you any nicotine, and you're going to go through nicotine withdrawal, and that's not good. But do you know what's really not good? Heroin. You don't want to get addicted to heroin. So do you have any answers for me? It's like the most terrifying thing, but it's what I think about all the time. Like in relation to drugs. And it's also a perfect analogy for what the British did in China, where they get them addicted to drugs, where the Chinese in no way really had a market for opium like 20, 30 years ago. And now like the British are able to basically freely import it and then exchange it for goods that they will then sail back to Europe with. China doesn't like that.
Of course.
And so they start something called the Opium Wars, which should actually be called China trying to get the British to stop selling drugs. And the British win because they have all of these like massive weapons and literally zero moral compass. And so their Opium War is raging in China. That's causing a bunch of instability as well, which is encouraging people then to leave. Right. But the issue is in America, which identifies with Western Europe, our perception is that Chinese people are addicted to opium, that they're like lazy drug addicts. They're weird. They're different. They're dirty. Like every bad kind of word you could come up with to describe these people is racism propagated by the British. And also some of the issues that China like does face is 100% because of what the British are doing. You know?
Super classic.
Right. So there's this push and pull factor of like opium wars and like China under colonization, plus suddenly economic opportunity out west. Because when the gold rush happens, it's mainly white men who move from the East Coast to the West Coast. Right. And then up from the South, we have people of like Hispanic, Mexican, Latin origin. And then from across the Pacific Ocean, you have Chinese immigrants arriving. Right. But almost all of these people are men to work in predominantly identified as like male career fields and industries. Right. So like wood harvesting, cattle ranching, mining, construction, labor, things like that. Okay. That brings this huge influx of mostly men to the West Coast.
And then a lot of them are still sending money back to their families?
No, most of them are becoming alcoholics and cheating on their wives and dying out there. But the original plan
that was the plan.
Well, the original plan was to get rich and then go get them back.
Oh, okay.
But when you're actually rich, when you're actually not rich, poor, dirty, have maybe a weird homo-romantic relationship with some of the other miners and no way to get back to the East Coast. Crazy how life changes you.
Jesus.
So waves of Chinese, paragraph 2, waves of Chinese immigrants, West Coast. There's two things that happen, and America loves both of them. First, we immediately begin exploiting the labor of immigrants.
Classic.
Second, we immediately start to discriminate against the immigrants whose labor we are exploiting.
I love that America's changed.
It's just like we have one note and we sing it really loudly.
Yeah, and we are like, we need to stop singing this note, and then we sing it even louder.
It's actually, listen, I'm sorry, but like it actually is like so crazy, this like internal firing squad, because it's American companies that are intentionally paying Chinese workers less because of racism.
Yep.
And then there are white American workers who, instead of being mad at like American industry for paying foreign workers less, are instead furious
at
foreign workers
for stealing American jobs.
Literally, exactly that.
It's fine. I have an eye twitch.
So Chinese immigrants are arriving in America, predominantly Chinese men specifically.
Right.
They're here to work in mines. They're here to work as laborers. Chinese immigrants especially power the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad.
Right.
So the Transcontinental Railroad is this railroad that connects the East Coast and West Coast together. It's the first time you can travel by train from like New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, all the way to San Francisco. It's built in a really interesting way. They start it on both ends and then work their way towards it. But on the east end, which is full of largely like freed black men, newly arrived European immigrants, but white people, they get to build through the insanely flat terrain of like Iowa and Nebraska and like eastern Wyoming and things like that. And there's like a couple of mountains near Wyoming, Utah, but they covered this like massive distance of like largely flat land. Meanwhile, the California route has to go through the literal motherfucking Sierra Nevadas and then a harsh desert and then meet up at the edge of the Rocky Mountains, which means that work moves a lot slower because they have to blow a lot of shit up. And when you have to blow a lot of shit up at this time without OSHA, people die. And so while it's like white people building the eastern portion of the Transcontinental Railroad, it is recent Chinese immigrants who America is literally so happy to see die, blowing up tunnels to build the western portion.
That's,
literally infuriating. Correct. But the Transcontinental Railroad also pulls Chinese immigrants away from the coast and into the American West more.
Right.
There is work on the Transcontinental Railroad, and then once that railroad is built, it can service mines in these mountainous regions. Right. So a lot of them then stay there and start working in the mines. Early days, Western states in the United States are seeing like Wyoming has a population that's 25% Chinese American at one point, right? Because there's, after the American government commits genocide against the Native Americans, a lot of the workers that then built a lot of that infrastructure just like stayed there, and white settlers hadn't come to commit violence on them yet. I don't think of immigrants
when I think of Wyoming.
You don't, or like Idaho, or like Utah, or things like that. And so the story of immigrants is like of the Chinese immigrants specifically is that they come, they build these railroads, and then they settle along the western states of the United States. You with me so far?
Yeah.
And we're talking about Chinese food, but first we have to talk about a lot of really sad shit.
Stay with us.
Stay with us. We are for reals coming back to Chinese food, but if you're like, how is this related to crab rangoons? Like it is, but you need to stay with me.
I mean, we're talking about the people that made it, so.
Correct, 100%. So they settle in places like Rock Spring, Wyoming, Butte, Montana, Denver, Colorado.
Right.
In fact, 1869 is the year that the Transcontinental Railroad is finished. And in 1869 is the first ever recorded residency of a Chinese American living in the city of Denver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, say that year one more time?
1869.
Wow. Okay.
We construct the Transcontinental Railroad from 63 to 69.
Okay.
It finishes in 69.
And then they kind of
boom, people just immediately settle basically where they got dropped off at. I'm actually staying so close to the script. You should be really proud of me right now.
I'll be the judge of that when I edit.
The first Chinese immigrants arrive in Denver in 1869, and very soon these immigrants are setting up small neighborhoods, which become referred to as Chinatowns throughout cities in the West. The phrase Chinatown is not a name the Chinese Americans use for themselves, but does, you'll find out in a little bit, become a name that they adopt and identify with. These communities are super important for the Chinese immigrants because as more Chinese immigrants arrived in the United States, the racism and violence that white settlers were willing to do really ratcheted up.
Ha-ha!
Yeah. So for instance, one part of the legal code that states would use is they would say, if you can't become a U.S. citizen, you have to pay a tax to mine. So you're literally mining in the mines of the United States. And because you were born in China, not like some of these other countries, U.S. law prohibits you from becoming a U.S. citizen.
Literally.
Right. So they don't say the word Chinese in some of these laws, but it's like clearly specifically
targeting these people.
So like foreign-born people who can't become U.S. citizens have to pay like this mining tax. They're not allowed to own land. They're not allowed to own property.
Right.
In fact, in some parts of the United States, this idea of like the people who work at a Chinese grocery store live at the back of the shop is because they legally couldn't rent anywhere else.
That's wild.
So they moved to these communities, Chinatown, because also like many of them are not becoming proficient in English because they are not welcomed in like white circles because they are met like with violence.
Also, people don't understand that like learning English from like being a native French speaker or being a native German speaker or like another Latin or Romance based language is so much different from these Eastern Asian specific languages. Like you don't even use the same characters, you know? It's like, and the structure of the sentences is different, unlike in a lot of European languages. So.
Exactly. So these Chinese immigrants start to form neighborhoods in major American cities.
Yeah.
They don't have the ability to become farmers and ranchers like white Americans will have, nor do they have the ability, like the U.S. government is moving indigenous people onto reservations, hoping they will become farmers and ranchers. That's not an option for Chinese people. And so Chinese immigrants, Chinese Americans, kind of depends on like what that own individual's intention is with the rest of their life, set up in these very tight-knit communities in major U.S. cities out west and open up businesses that serve their largely male clientele, specifically laundry services and cooking.
Nice. Okay.
Both of which are viewed as women's work. And since women didn't come out west to like mine and things like that, there's a huge lack of women. And stop me if this sounds familiar. These men hadn't been taught life skills, so they literally don't know how to take care of themselves.
I've never heard of that before in my life.
At least like 120 years ago, we got Chinese food out of it. Now we're just getting incels out of it, and it's so much fucking worse.
And this is how I fight feminism, is that I don't know how to cook.
Exactly. So that's what happens. These like communities serve this group of people. They're like, we'll do your laundry, we'll serve you food, we'll do these jobs. Because also, I'm not allowed to own land. I'm not allowed to work in the mines at some points, right?
Right.
Chinatowns are popping up throughout the West and not necessarily always in like major cities. Like Butte, Montana, Rock Springs, Wyoming, there's tiny, tiny little mining villages that still have a neighborhood or a street dedicated 100% to Chinese immigrants. But the hatred that white settlers felt towards Chinese workers continued even after they were no longer competing for the same jobs in like mining and labor.
It's just crazy that Americans are just like, fuck yeah, capitalism, and then get mad when capitalism doesn't serve them.
Correct, 100%.
Like consistently for centuries. It's like at some point we got to get it through our thick ass skulls.
Well, it's also really tough because, and trigger warning for probably the next 3 or 4 minutes, we're going to talk about kind of in detail some of the violence that happened. But it's like also so frustrating because doing this story was again another reminder as to how like for like white Americans specifically, there has not been the kind of barriers that other immigrants groups have experienced, right? Like so many times in the 1880s and 1890s, Chinese Americans' entire communities were burnt down and they had to start all over in a country that would not give them U.S. citizenship, which is something that was experienced by like Black people, specifically with like the Tulsa quote unquote race riot, which was just another like mass lynching, or like with the indigenous people who were forced off of ancestral lands, put somewhere they did not recognize and asked to do an industry they had no historical connection to. It's like just time and time again, you're seeing examples of like people having to make the most out of the worst economic situations.
Right.
Anyways.
My God.
In 1880, a white angry mob attacks the Chinatown district here in Denver. Here's something that those of us who live in Colorado or have been to Denver now are thinking about. The Chinatown that gets attacked and burnt down in 1880 Denver is not on the southwest side where we
Right.
think of now. It's like a block away from the train station on Wawada Street. In fact, I
Wow.
even have a cartoon of what this neighborhood looks like. And please go ahead and describe what you're seeing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like elderly Asian people in the foreground that are being attacked by like seemingly police officers.
How would you say the buildings look like in this picture?
Old,
They're old, but like
wooden.
it's exactly what you think of
Yeah.
like in a Western and things
Yeah,
like that, right?
yeah.
It's like just another neighborhood in the city of Denver. During this 1880 white mob massacre, the immigrant Sing Lee is murdered and dozens of others are murdered in Denver.
Okay.
The community regroups but never rebuilds fully, and 60 years later is just completely torn down during like an urban renewal project that
Right.
fully just destroys any trace of the Denver original Chinatown. 5 years later, in 1885, in the town of Rock Springs, Wyoming,
Yeah.
a white angry mob goes even further and murders 28 Chinese people and burns over 100 homes to the ground because they are mad that the coal company that
Yeah.
owns the entire town has hired Chinese workers.
Okay.
Yep. None of them are arrested or prosecuted.
Why would they?
Right. The worst consequence that happens is 45 of them are fired by the coal company.
Oh no.
Correct.
That's so sad for them.
The coal company that continues to
Exploit labor.
correct from
Yep.
the Chinese
Yep.
laborers.
Yep.
100%. And so there becomes in the 1880s, and you'll notice very conveniently around the time that several railroads have now been built and there's like established communities out west, right around that time, anti-Chinese sentiment becomes strong enough that
Right.
that the US passes the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 fully prohibits anyone from China from immigrating to the United States.
What?
It is, to this day, the only law passed by Congress and signed by the president that specifically targets immigrants from one specific country
Yeah.
and bans them from immigrating to the United States.
Which president was it?
1882, that would be, I think, maybe Garfield or Hayes. Which president is less important than
Yeah.
the fact that, like, basically overnight, Chinese immigration into the
Has to
U.S.
end.
stops
Yeah.
and also kicks off this new era where, without new immigrants arriving, they're being pushed further and further from, like, the mining and labor jobs that they had been using.
Yeah.
Chinese immigrants retreat to a handful of communities, largely in Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles.
Right.
And that gets us to 1882. This is fortunately probably the saddest the episode gets
Oh,
is the
good.
chapter we just covered.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Chapter 2, Life After Exclusion.
Okay.
The Exclusion Act of 1882 adds legitimacy to white violence against Chinese and Chinese Americans. And over the next 2 decades, the Chinese populations in basically every Western state drops.
Can I ask, what was the justification for the Chinese Exclusion Act?
Racism.
That was just it. They were like, we
100%.
dislike these people.
Yes.
Like they didn't have any even fake reason that they
A
gave.
political slogan in 1882 was simply, "The Chinese must go."
Holy shit.
Yep,
Okay.
Yep, huge, massive
cool.
signs. Yep, both parties ran on it. It was highly popular out west.
That's just sick, bro. That's
Correct.
awesome. Awesome.
And so Chinese
Great.
immigrants flee to a handful of neighborhoods, largely on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Also, because a lot of these initial waves of immigrants were men, there's not a lot of Chinese American families that get formed.
Right.
And so you see the Chinese population in the United States really drop, right? As it gets really concentrated in a handful of neighborhoods.
Okay.
But it's there they reform, they form businesses, they form communities and neighborhood associations, very similar to what they had in China, where it was like, hey, like this cultural community that my grandpa founded and that my
Right.
father's been a part of and I'm now a part
yeah.
of, it's going to help me find a job. And if it lets me know that like my neighbor needs some food, like I'm going to provide some food. And it's like a
Yeah.
very collectivist organization, not built around like religion, like in the way white
Yeah.
American churches are, but just kind of like culturally we're all going to look out
Yeah.
for each other. Those take off in these communities.
That's good.
And, you know, they largely like kind of keep to themselves.
Yeah.
And then a defining moment happens for our Chinese communities, and
Okay.
specifically Chinatown. San Francisco burns to the ground.
Ha! Great.
So the San Francisco earthquake of 1906.
Okay.
Big earthquakes means a bunch of buildings drop.
Right.
All of those buildings were largely powered by like kerosene and gas and candles. And so then they caught on fire.
Ha-ha!
And whatever wasn't destroyed by the earthquake was by the fire.
Oh.
Yeah. And so a bunch of white city leaders
Yeah.
were like, what a perfect opportunity to fix every issue and rebuild the city from the ground up, and we'll solve everything.
What issues do they think they have? I'm so scared.
Sorry, just side note. U.S. Bank
Yeah.
really profits from the 1906 earthquake because it's one of the only safes that like survives the earthquake.
Oh my God.
And isn't radioactively hot from the fire. And so they're the first people to give out loans to like the most reputable creditors.
Wow.
Anyways, they're like, what a perfect opportunity. No building exists in this town anymore. Let's go ahead and force all the Chinese people out. Let's go ahead and make sure none of the Chinese people are allowed to build in the United States or
What-
in the city of San
literally, what the fuck?
Francisco. You know, San Francisco, the like heart of Chinese culture in America
Yep,
in
at the time.
1906. They're like, go ahead and get out.
Oh my God.
Here's a photo
I hate us.
of San Francisco's Chinatown during that fire specifically.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yep,
My
as
gosh.
they just watch the fire like approach. See, white leaders in San Francisco viewed Chinatown as unclean, as a source of crime, and unsafe.
Why
Okay,
not?
So there are certain elements of truth to that, but it's not the Chinese
It is
Americans'
false.
fault.
It never
Right.
is.
It can feel unsafe because it's not policed
Yep,
by
there it
the
is.
city of San Francisco, nor is it like really taken care of
By the city of San Francisco.
Is it maybe even like intentionally neglected by the government?
The city
to
is
serve
like,
white?
how dare you not be clean and innocent of everything? We're not giving you any resources.
Correct.
What?
And also, because this community is so isolated and left largely to police itself, it does that thing that you can kind of understand, which is like, you know, like it does open up gambling halls like in its community. And then white people come in to gamble there because
Yep.
it's kind of like its own little mini Vegas.
Yeah.
Because it's neglected and needs to
Yeah.
like pay its bills.
Right.
And so it's this like terrible combination of like, our sins are at least partially your own. And we would love to not necessarily have some of these issues. And so like, and it's also like, these are issues that like the Chinese Americans want to address. They're like, we would love
Yeah.
for us to have access to like
That would be super
functioning
great.
municipal services and
Yeah.
things like that. And the city is like, nope, you got to go. So a handful of Chinese leaders
Okay.
get the entire Chinese community together.
Okay.
And then they go to San Francisco city leaders
Okay.
and they say, let us rebuild, but we will rebuild in a way that helps drive tourism to the city. And
Okay.
what they do is they rebuild Chinatown to look vaguely like how white Americans think China
China looks.
like.
Hey, that's some marketing genius.
And here are two pictures for you.
Okay. Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
And then every other Chinatown in the United States does the exact same
same
thing. So if you've ever been to like Washington, D.C. or Seattle or Portland or Denver on the southwest side or San Francisco, and you've walked through like a
arches.
Chinese looking
Yeah.
gate and some of them have like curved roofs
Yeah.
or things like that, or there's a fucking lantern hanging.
Yeah.
You are at a Disneyland that was built for you. So
You
that
are
way
at the Casa Bonita of China.
you are at a Disneyland built so Chinese Americans could survive racism. Like you, listen, you are doing what they wanted to have happened, which is visiting them, patronizing their businesses or
Yes.
whatever. I think they would have loved to have not had to like cosplay as something
Yeah,
that they're not.
costumize their own
Right.
culture.
This is why I wanted you to look at what those photos of
Yeah.
Chinatown in Denver and San Francisco
Yeah.
looked like before the fire, because they're just regular ass
Towns.
buildings with like different language on the
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
Haha.
check this out. Isn't this so
We're
cool?
in China now.
Right. Which, like, that's not good.
No.
You know, like that's
No, it sure isn't.
racism.
Yep.
And but also like speaks to the resiliency of Chinese Americans and kind of all immigrants, but then also does something very important for Chinese food in America.
Okay.
It turns Chinatown from this like scary dark neighborhood where you'd only ever go to like gamble or like other like sins and things like that, and turns this neighborhood into kind of a tourist attraction.
Okay, yeah.
So like you could go visit for a day for an exotic experience just down the street.
Ugh.
Correct. But what do people do when they have exotic experiences? They eat. Like they're going to go there, they're going to like buy something, they're going to eat food, and they're going to leave. Maybe they're changing their opinions about Chinese people, or maybe it's cementing some of the most racist stereotypes
things they
ever.
have,
But they also stop committing massacres against them.
This is good.
So
one step at a time.
It's definitely 2 steps forward, 1 step back because of all the racist stereotypes, but like they're no longer being murdered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a crazy thing that's a good step in the right direction.
Correct. So the creation of distinct and like also low-key kind of iconic Chinatowns across the United States ends up being really good for the Chinese community because it's now bringing the white people that were murdering them into their community and then they're not murdering them, right?
Okay, yeah.
And it also starts to very, very initially provide some space for more authentic Chinese food, right? Like a Peking duck hanging in the window, for example, which white Americans at the time will continue to view like as exotic or whatever.
Yeah.
But like now it's like interesting as opposed to like rapidly dangerous and I must murder that, you know? So,
oh my God, I hate us so much right now.
So next they need a dish to start serving Americans.
Okay.
And do you know the first popularized Chinese food dish in America? Do you know its name? It's 2 words. No. Chop suey.
Oh,
You've heard that word before?
I've heard it. I don't know what it is.
Which is really good for America.
Yeah.
Listen, we're not going to get a lot of credit until maybe the very end of this episode, but that's really good for America.
Okay.
Here are the ingredients to chop suey, which, like, by the way, like the word closest to it in Chinese is basically like leftover meat, loose veg. Like it's not a good name. It's like a definition name for like
it's the
bits
kitchen
and
sink.
pieces.
Yeah.
Yes. It includes generally some kind of meat.
Good.
Pork or chicken or beef or shrimp or fish or all of the above. Some egg.
Okay.
And then that's all cooked very quickly with some vegetables, which like basically makes them warm, but like still kind of crispy. Yeah. Stop me if that sounds familiar, by the way. And then like bean sprouts, which is exotic but safe because it's a vegetable. Cabbage and like celery, which is funny because like cabbage and celery are also like very common foods for white Americans, right? Like celery is like a New England staple, and cabbage is like what my poor ancestors from Germany were eating all the time. Mm-hmm. And then, and this is crucial, there's like a thick sauce that gets served with it, but it's thick from starch, not thick from like butter or other dairy products or even flour. Yeah. It's thick from like rice water, things like that. And then it's served with the most exotic thing you could have, white rice.
This is our sarcastic before someone comes for us.
And so you literally have white Americans trapezing into Chinatown, eating food that has been built for them and their sensitive stomachs, using vegetables they will largely recognize, using meats that the Chinese can afford to buy. And then they're leaving. And also, it quickly gains a reputation for being a cheap meal. It's a cheap meal for a couple of different reasons. Because Chinatown experienced so much racism, property values were lower and thus rents were lower, right? Okay. Because a lot of these people like owned the restaurant, cooked it themselves, lived on a mat in the back. Like their labor costs were lower, right? Because it was like just them. And then they are using like kind of truly the cheapest ingredients. And the thing that like is making it like special and different is like the cultural experience you're getting along with all of it.
Which is just the people serving you and like the
100%
building you're in. Yep.
And you're gonna walk home to Whiteville as soon as this is done or whatever. But it then also know is like, this is an interesting experience, but this food is super accessible because it's so cheap.
Right.
And I can get like a big portion of food for not a lot of money because our perfect system of capitalism and racism has made this cheaper than other food.
I can't with this. I fucking hate capitalism.
I'm sorry that everyone's favorite food group here in America, which like that's just a scientific fact. Like Americans eat more Chinese food than almost anything else.
And I will continue to eat Chinese food. I just deeply hate this.
The story does get better, I promise. But yeah, it's not great at the start.
There's a phrase that you said, I don't know when, but I cannot stop saying it. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism.
No, there isn't, which is probably a Brendan Lee Mulligan quote too.
Probably. It's like, it's my new life motto. Like, I fucking hate it.
Yeah, no, 100%. But also for these communities, like it provided them a way to support themselves.
Yeah.
It also did slowly start to change the perception of white Americans. Not that Chinese Americans were American, but that Chinese Americans weren't threats.
It's also like, because they had to be insular for so long prior to this, and now they're actively, like, part of their survival technique is being a tourist attraction, which means white people are interacting with them, interacting with their culture, seeing them, and now being like, oh, maybe you're not all villains and criminals and thieves and rapists and all the things that we still say about immigrants.
Right, exactly. And what's great too is like, I mean, Americans are, at least in large cities, because that's the only place that you're finding Chinese restaurants, is like in a lot of old scrapbook collections, people have saved Chinese menus from like the 1910s and 1920s.
Wow.
Because it was this like exotic experience. Like you went and then you like took the paper menu home with you.
It's cool that we have that.
Correct. Here's really interesting.
Yeah.
From 1910 to 1930, the number of Chinese restaurants in America quadruples. What's extra interesting about that fact is the Chinese Exclusion Act is still in effect. So it's not that there's a quadrupling of Chinese immigrants coming to America.
It's literally just the Chinese that are here are just opening.
Suddenly there is an industry that they are allowed to do and that Americans are responding to.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's really kind of the first time you see this cuisine like explode in popularity.
Okay.
But then here's the extra interesting thing.
Yeah.
The Chinese Exclusion Act stops Chinese people from coming in, yes.
Yeah.
But also kind of like severs the American Chinese community from like mainland Chinese diaspora. So like chop suey.
Can you define diaspora for me?
Yeah, like the larger global community of Chinese people.
Okay.
Like they basically exist now in a little Chinese American vacuum.
Yes.
So it means that like Chinese cuisine does not get changed for like 60 years in America.
Yeah.
Because there's no connection with like mainland traditions. And also important to remember too, Chinese immigration happened in the US for such a short period of time before it was cut off that it largely just came from South China. In a region that we know as like Canton, which is where we get like the language Cantonese from.
Oh, okay.
But China's a huge place geographically. And much like in America, their food scenes are very different elsewhere.
Right.
But you're not getting that diversity either because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. And so for like 60 years, Chinese food stays frozen in time.
Whoa.
Right. But it gives Americans time, white Americans specifically, to adjust, to become familiar, to start to crave it, and to start to feel okay with it. And so it can kind of explode in popularity like across major United States cities.
Okay.
You with me so far?
Yeah.
Here is a sign. Go ahead and describe what you're seeing in this photo right here.
It's like a street. It says it's Chinatown, San Francisco, and then there's like a bunch of shops.
Do you
and
see
you
what
can
the
see
sign
all the
says?
it says chop suey.
Right.
You could see all the like roofs have like the curved architecture, but then on the other side it's all like very European architecture.
Correct. It's like the edge of
Wow.
Chinatown.
That's crazy. It's literally a street. And
Right.
then on one side it's like all Chinese.
And
like,
you can peg this photo almost assuredly is from the 1910s or 20s.
Yeah.
Because of like the style, the fact that chop suey is popular.
Yeah.
Like just those two facts alone help date it. And then you'll also notice across the street in a much bigger sign that's neon, that long sign also says chop suey.
Does it? Oh, wow.
Chop suey became the word for Chinese food. We don't use the word Chinese food in the 1910s and 20s. We use like chop suey. And then there's other things you can get at chop suey.
Okay.
Okay. Chapter 3.
God damn it.
Two women and millions of communists. And we're going to pause there so I can pee.
Yeah. I was going to say, I haven't seen that porno.
That's good.
Whether or not Chinese food gets ordered is going to play a big factor into what happens after this episode.
Okay, that's fair. That's good to know. I do have frozen chicken tenders and fries at my house that I am like trying to force myself to make. Not because I don't want to look forward to them, but because like I'm in a season of savings.
I want to be in a season of saving.
But also, Hayden will be over and she'll have just woken up after a like very long night shift. And I know that girl can put away some crab beans on her man. And that's one of the many reasons why we love her.
Yeah, truly.
And then it's just, 2 women and a communist. 2 women and millions of communists. We're back from our break. Okay, so in 1943, something really cool happens. America's fighting World War II.
I was like, I don't know if anything that happened in the 40s was cool.
Winning World War II was pretty cool.
Yeah.
How we won the war in the Pacific, way more complicated.
Yeah.
But 1943, America is fighting against the Japanese. And one of our big allies is the Chinese, because the Japanese are actively trying to invade China.
Right.
And so in 1943, the American Congress revokes the Chinese Exclusion Act, allowing immigration from China to the U.S. again. Yes.
Oh my God.
Had existed
That's so nice of us.
Had existed for 61 years. And I think it's at least in part so that way we can legally bring over some of the Chinese people that helped us during the war.
Right.
Like, for all you history nerds out there, one of Ben Affleck's early movies, the 2003 movie Pearl Harbor, right? When they crash land at the end, they crash landed in China. Like, they're about to be shuttled by the Chinese into British-controlled India, but whatever. 1943, we revoked the Chinese Exclusion Act, in part because of like World War II. That's obviously playing a huge role.
Right now, all of our Japanese are internment camps,
Yep.
so we need other Asians.
I want you to know at one point I did look at including like that, but I was like,
that's too much.
I'm already, And also, Japanese people are not Chinese people. And I was like,
Japanese and Chinese people also, I will say, white people aren't actually the best at racism. This is a Hassan Minaj bit.
Sorry, go ahead. I made the mistake of drinking coffee. Please continue.
Hassan Minaj does this bit where he's like, and white people, you're not even the best at racism because you only hate people that don't look like you. But Asian people, they hate people that look exactly like them. And then he goes through, like, it's mainly like South Asians that hate other South Asians, and then like Eastern Asians that hate other Eastern Asians. And he's like, and that's just the hairy ones. Let's talk about the hairless ones. It's Hassan Minaj.
And
he can
Maya
say it.
is biracial.
Yes, I want to make that very clear. Asian people can be very racist towards other Asian people.
So can Americans, just for the record. White Americans. But also like American perception of Chinese Americans by the 1940s is different. And I am using the word Chinese Americans because we're now like 60 years in. Like, unless you are in your 70s or 80s, any person who was of Chinese origin in America in 1943 was born here.
Yes.
And that's in part because of like the Chinatowns and Chinese food, also known as like chop suey, that like helped familiarized America with the fact that they're human beings.
Also, we kind of like forced them to become Americanized.
Yep. By isolating them from China and not letting anyone else come in. 100% correct. And so the Chinese Exclusion Act is lifted. And for the first time in 60 years, Chinese can now immigrate into the United States. That's huge for Chinese food, which is now going to get a massive amounts of influences from other parts of China that have always existed. But also some really important people are going to show up. This new wave of Chinese immigrants immediately found work in kitchens and brought new flavors from the communities they had grown up in. dishes changed, and more Chinese Americans moved out of the Chinatowns they had grown in, diversifying Chinese American cuisine and expanding it to more American cities.
Okay.
They're not necessarily in like small towns yet, right? But like maybe you're in Seattle and Tacoma. Maybe you're in San Francisco, like and San Jose.
Okay.
You're not like legally restricted to live in Chinatown anymore. And this diversification of food means like new dishes get introduced and also new spice levels, right? Like for a long time, Chinese food had to be super mild because that's what Americans would expect. You can't be of a different ethnicity and spicy in 1930s America.
That's not how that works.
Correct. But also like these different regions in China have like different like flavors, right? Like Szechuan peppers are not the same as like elsewhere, right? Mixes of like umami or like a sour flavor to them, right? Like there are different culinary traditions in China.
Yeah.
And that's good. And then the Chinese Communist Revolution happens in 1949. And more on that maybe in a different episode. As far as it resolves around like America, it moves some really important people.
Okay.
Thousands look to flee China.
Right.
Many land in the United States, including a woman by the name of Joyce Chen.
Okay.
Joyce and her family are on the second to last boat to leave Shanghai before the port closes.
Oh, yeah.
On April 21st, Chen and her family settled in Cambridge. It's like April 21st, 1949.
Okay.
Settle in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Notably, here... So notably, her family comes from like the central region of China. Shanghai is like decidedly in the middle. So much further north than Canton, where like the first wave of Chinese immigrants comes from.
Right.
In 1957, she first thought that her cooking might be popular because she brought two things to a bake sale for her kids' elementary school.
Okay.
She brings pumpkin cookies and she brings egg rolls.
Yes!
And they sell out within an hour.
Dude, egg rolls can... fuck up my life.
Just kind of giving you a moment. Mine's not looking at anybody right now. They sell it within an hour, and Joyce Chen's like, "Oh, people might like this food that I'm just like, I mean, and it's like a version of what I grew up with, right? She's like, obviously doesn't have access to a lot of the ingredients she grew up with as a kid.
Yeah.
But she's like, oh, if you guys are kind of interested in this stuff, I can make more. And a year later, in 1958, she opens up her first restaurant. The school in Cambridge was called the Buckingham School, which is so funny to think of a place called the Buckingham School of Cambridge as the birthplace of egg rolls.
And it's in the U.S.
Yes. Cooked by a lady who fled communism in China.
Yeah, so none of it's in Europe.
I don't mean to be like a 2015 Hamilton supporter, but like that is really the version of America that I love. I'm like straight to the veins.
I stand by 2015 Hamilton.
It was the final year of the Obama administration, and we really thought we were going to be living in the future.
Yep. And now we have the 10-year reunion where they had to make another political statement.
Yep. She opens up her first restaurant.
Oh yeah, Joyce, get your egg rolls out.
Yeah. Hell yeah, Joyce, get your egg rolls out at Joyce Chen Restaurant.
I love it.
Where she introduces people to central and northern Chinese food, which is more of a Mandarin variety.
Okay.
She is famous for introducing the people of Boston to, yes, things like egg rolls, but also Peking duck, mushu pork, hot and sour soup, and pot stickers.
Yep.
If you were a Chinese woman in the 1950s trying to convince a bunch of Irish and Italians in Boston to eat a pot sticker, what might you call it?
Oh, I don't know.
She nicknamed pot stickers on her menu as Peking ravioli.
Shut the fuck up.
Sometimes just
that's actually genius.
Sometimes just shortened to ravs. Like
Ravs!
Just even dropped. And I want to say this too real quick. I am aware that there's probably a pretty good chance that pot sticker also isn't the word they use in China for it.
I am 99% sure it is not.
I'm not like, haha, imagine calling pot sticker ravioli and it's like still not a word that they're using.
I did not know pot sticker was the term used for that. I always called them gyoza growing up.
So like,
but that's Japanese.
Check. Yeah. 100% hearing what you're saying. And also, they go crazy. Another
for these Chinese ravioli.
Peking raviolis.
Peking ravioli.
Spelled different than Pekin restaurant in Butte, Montana, by the way. Wait until we talk about General Tao's chicken. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yikes.
She also does this thing at her restaurant in Cambridge where she starts to number the dishes, like 1 through 60.
So you
or
can
whatever.
refer to the number instead of having to say the name.
Correct.
Yep. That saved Grand Night when we were in Prague.
Yes, literally anywhere not London.
I was like, because I don't know, I don't even want to try and pronounce this because I'm going to offend everyone in this restaurant. Get me the number 10.
You and I trying to avoid the restaurants that just have pictures of the food so dumb Americans can order them, but at the same time being like, my Google Translate app says this is fried cheese. So whatever that means here, I want to see it.
Bring this to me.
Yes, exactly. Because here's the thing. These Chinese immigrants are coming and immediately working in kitchens because it's where they can work. Like,
yes.
There's a Chinese community built around them. And that's going to be, we'll talk about it later too. That's a really interesting hallmark of Chinese food is that Chinese food in America, which is obviously different than food they eat in China,
right,
is still made oftentimes by like naturalized Chinese citizens and Chinese immigrants.
Right.
You have, for lack of a better phrase, legit Chinese people cooking American Chinese food in
yes.
these kitchens.
Yeah.
So she's numbering it so that way her English-speaking customers and her Mandarin-speaking workers can communicate with one another. And it becomes huge.
I love that.
Joyce Chen opens a restaurant. It runs for a decade, and then she starts to do, what's the name of the show? Joyce Chen Cooks, which is filmed in 1967, is filmed on the exact same stage as Julia Child's The French Chef.
Whoa.
Yes. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Julia Child films first, The French Chef.
Obviously.
She's then done. Joyce Chen comes in. They put up a couple of quote unquote, racial epithet here, Oriental, like paper lanterns or whatever. And then she cooks her Chinese food.
Yeah.
You can find videos of her cooking on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's great. It feels a lot like Julia Child's.
Yeah.
Julia Child had a couple of like little quirks because I think Julia Child had a stronger mastery of the English language because she wasn't born in China, wasn't born in America. Like Joyce Chen definitely still speaks with an accent. You can understand her. And it's really interesting to watch. It's like really well made.
Yeah.
There's like legit cooking tips that are being dispensed. She opens up more restaurants. She opens up her own line of cooking utensils in like the 1980s, which is like high-end cooking utensils, including the flat bottom wok, which a lot of people start to use.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Joyce Chen becomes in many ways like the face of Chinese food, at least on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And introduces us to not only Peking ravioli, but after pot stickers take off, she introduces us to soup dumplings. Describe what soup dumplings are for our listener.
It's like, this is how I think that they're made. I could be wrong. You make a soup and then you will freeze it into like little cubes and then you will put that soup into a dumpling and cook it. So by the time you like get it, it's like you bite into it and it's literally soup. And so usually you'll like put it into like one of the soup spoons and eat it that way.
Right.
So good.
You like break the seal, then the spoon fills up with soup. You have that soup and then this like beautiful, soft, almost soggy, but like in the right way, chewy.
Like steamed dumpling.
I'm getting hungry. We gotta stop.
Yeah, I know.
There's children present.
This is your fault. I want you to know.
I know. On the West Coast, there's another woman absolutely making a name for herself. Another woman who fled communism basically at the exact same time.
Wow.
Her name is Cecilia Chang.
Okay.
Who brought more authentic foods like hot and sour soup, lettuce wraps, pot stickers, and Peking duck to the West Coast.
I'm assuming Joyce and Cecilia are not their actual names. That's the names that they go by probably once they get here.
Cecilia Chang's name, I think at least she didn't change the spelling of the last name because it's Chiang. That wasn't a huge part of their
I just want to
stories.
Note it that they probably have already Americanized themselves by the time they got here. Yeah,
a little bit. Well, I think when you flee communism, you'll do anything not to get sent back to communism.
Seems fair. Yeah.
It's also so funny because both Joyce and Cecilia, and I didn't find a lot of beef between the two of them, but admittedly, I didn't go searching for that.
Yeah.
But both of them basically are like, I brought Peking duck and dumplings to America. And it's like, honestly,
okay, sure.
They're so beautiful. Let's let you both be right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give out the award to both of you. Cecilia Cheng opens up a restaurant called The Mandarin in San Francisco in the 1970s, and because it's in California and not frozen hellscape half the year Boston, plays host to a whole bunch of different people like Frank Sinatra and Jack Nicholson. But Cecilia's story, at least because I have more details to it, her origin story is, I think, a lot more interesting.
Okay.
So, Cecilia escaped with her sister from Japanese occupation in China in 1942.
Okay.
Walking for 6 months to Cheongqing, where they settled with a relative. During her time, she worked as a Mandarin teacher for both the American and Soviet embassies in the city. She also met her future husband, a former economics professor at Fujian Catholic University, who was now then a successful businessman.
Wow.
They get a very comfortable life together in Shanghai.
Yeah.
They have 2 children, May and Philip. And then, because the war is still raging on and Shanghai's a super important city, and she has all these connections with American diplomats and she moves all over the place, she becomes an American spy for the Office of Strategic Services.
Shut up. Okay, wait, sorry. To get my history, when does Shanghai return to China?
Right. Kind of instantly. Shanghai's a city that like kind of always belonged to China but had a strong international presence.
Because it
Hong Kong is the one that was independent.
Hong Kong is the one that was owned by Britain for like 100 years or something like that.
You could argue in many ways Shanghai was also owned, but there was more of like a European quarter as opposed to like the entire city was controlled by the Europeans.
Because Hong Kong is the island?
Correct. Okay. And that was 100% controlled by the British. And so the war ends. She was a spy for it. They live in Shanghai for a handful of years. And then the Communist Revolution comes. And Joyce Chen is on the second to last boat out of Shanghai.
Yeah.
Cecilia Cheng is on the last flight from Shanghai to Japan, also in 1949.
Wow.
They have only 3 plane tickets, though. So they have to leave Philip behind.
No.
I know. But
how old is he?
He's a child.
Oh.
But here's the good news.
Okay.
They reunite with Philip basically a year later.
Okay.
Which is extra good because Philip will go on to co-found P.F. Chang's.
Holy.
Yeah. When I texted you it's going to be closer to 10:15, I had just found that and I was like, now hold on now. Philip is literally the P in P.F. Chang's.
What the fuck?
Yeah, Philip's literally the P. It's like,
oh my God.
It's like P.F. Chang's is actually short for Philip, like Fred Chang's.
Oh my God.
The periods are actual abbreviations.
Like initials,
Yeah, because what Philip does is he takes his mom's West Coast Chinese empire and takes some of the flavors that his mom developed and like proudly brought to America and like franchises it. And what's extra interesting, and we'll talk about this in one of the last chapters, is that like in America, Chinese food hasn't really been turned into a chain in the way all of these other places have. Right? Like, God, I mean, you have Domino's, Pizza Hut, whatever for Italian food. And then you have also like Fazoli's and Olive Garden for like a more classic things. Mexican restaurants, you have like Taco Bell and Chipotle. And, you know, obviously there's still like some local like Mexican restaurants too.
Chinese food tend to be more local restaurants consistently.
It is like 100% just that. So the fact that he was able to even kind of franchise Chinese food is actually really impressive. And they're like kind of doing okay. And
like they're still around.
Like a decade ago, they came out with like fried green beans, which is in no way Chinese at all whatsoever, and they're fucking amazing. So no longer all chop suey. Chinese food was allowed to kick up some spice. Where there's 2 chapters left. The first one is General Tso Near You. Joyce and Cecilia flee communist China for the United States.
Yes.
Chef Peng, which is the only name I was able to get from him, flees from China to Taiwan.
Okay.
Where there he is allowed to start working in a kitchen in Taipei where he creates a wonderfully spicy, peppery dish named after a famous general from Hunan province, which is where he's from, General Zhao, and names it General Zhao's Chicken.
Okay.
A bunch of American businessmen eat there one day, fly back to Manhattan. They're like, check out General Zhao's Chicken.
I'm so sick of us. I'm just so sick of
Chef
us.
Peng finds out what the fuck is happening, packs his bags, flies to New York, opens up his own restaurant like 2 blocks away.
Oh my God.
Gets covered by the local New York City
Good.
News, who was doing these like local interest pieces.
Yes.
Where like one of the anchors just got like a free meal every week,
Yeah.
essentially. Chef Peng comes out, cooks up this like big, bright, vibrant red dish. The news anchor eats it. He's like, this is really good. And like 1,000 people call in asking for the order. Chef Peng's restaurant ultimately doesn't take off and he moves back to Taiwan.
Oh.
But General Tao stays.
Is it General Tao or General Tsao?
Great question.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's not really the dish that Chef Peng created anymore.
I was going to say.
Americans add broccoli,
Right.
and then we change the chicken to be fried, and then we make it a lot sweeter, and we add green onions. And then
We're like, no, I love Chinese food.
as it changes, we're like, oh, also TSO, TSU, TSAU, TSOU, TAO. Like we actually then just kind of stop.
General something. General.
Right, exactly. Okay, and then here's also another great question too. General Tso kind of became famous for fighting Europeans to preserve Chinese culture.
Iconic.
I know, but so part of me is also like, I don't know if we should.
So fucked up of us. That's so fucked up
But
of us.
what's more fucked up? This is now an honest question for you.
Yeah.
Is it more fucked up for us to authentically say General Tso's name for this very much unauthentic dish?
Yeah.
Or should we just kind of butcher his name too and like fully separate his legacy from this chicken dish? I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't think it matters because one way or another we recognize that name like corresponds to that general, and it's
correct.
I just think the irony is beautiful that this man fought for the authenticity of Chinese culture, and then we're like, yeah, okay, I hear you,
Right.
I hear you, but what if this dish tasted better for me?
Right. At this point in the documentary, they were showing all the different ways
Yeah.
like Chinese restaurants make this food.
Yeah.
And like this is like a shot of like 3 different chefs in a row, and each chef uses an increasingly larger spoonful of sugar
There it is.
to
Yep.
make the sauce. But what's again also super interesting about this is it's Chinese cooks cooking in these restaurants, and then they'll interview these families.
Yeah.
They're proud of what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
They're like, my customers, my friends, my neighbors, they really like my cooking this way, right? And it's like,
It makes them happy. It just sucks that they had to adjust for us, I guess.
Correct.
But I mean, mixing pot and all that.
Chinese people interviewed in this documentary who lived in China are like, that is not Chinese food. How dare you call it that? Chinese Americans running Chinese food restaurants in America are like, please eat.
Yes.
Look at how good this food is.
Yeah.
Like
I found a way to make the thing that I enjoy enjoyable also for you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And like, not only do they like it, but like it's their work. They're like
Cooking
very
is also a
proud of
love
it.
language,
Yes.
and a lot of like these kinds of Asian cultures that are really focused on family and like community.
So this is me like waving the flag, listener. You get to like proudly, lovingly enjoy
Yeah.
American Chinese food.
Yeah.
It's not this thing where you're like, like I know it's culturally insensitive. No, it's like Chinese immigrants are cooking this for you to be like, you like this, right? Good,
Yeah.
please
Yes.
eat more and just keep paying me for
Yeah.
it. Right?
Yeah, support local.
Right. It's not even a thing. And this is really kind of what my research led to. It's not even really super important that you say General Tao's name correctly.
Yeah.
Just say number 6. Like follow the actual American Chinese traditions that this isolated community then like emerged from themselves and now embrace. And just follow the customs that you have been, you know?
Jesus.
Where did I leave off? Oh, that was the entire General Tao story. Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, so this is the last chapter before the final wrap up.
Okay.
And it starts off with this question. Okay. So this explains how General Tao's arrives in Manhattan. But that's like one restaurant, and it was a little upscale because these people were able to travel like internationally.
Right.
How does it go from one restaurant in Manhattan to being on literally every single dish and every single Chinese restaurant in America, especially when we've covered a little bit already, like none of these restaurants are chains. So it's not like it like hit the bloodstream and like they launched it.
Yeah.
This last chapter is called All Hail the Small Town Chinese Restaurant.
Yeah.
Since their first days in the U.S., Chinese immigrants have found cooking to be the only consistent pathways to success. That industry then becomes something that the Chinese community specializes in.
Yeah.
Families can move to the U.S. and they can start a restaurant. And in places like in San Francisco, those same Chinese cultural associations, those community organizations, welcome new Chinese immigrants and are like, we'll help you with the paperwork. We'll help you with like
Here's
supply
how you do
chains.
it. Yep.
Here's how we'll do it. We're going to get you set up. And it's not even like you'll like order our services for a fee, but they're like, if I can set you up in Butte, Montana, in a month, a young man's going to arrive who doesn't speak any English, who needs a job,
and
I'll send him to you. Right.
Yeah.
Like there'll be a place for us to like put him and things like that. And that works.
That's awesome.
But also what's really interesting about that is that restaurants can kind of cannibalize the same customers. Right?
Yeah.
And so these Chinese families have to move to places that don't have Chinese food.
restaurants. Yeah.
And they have the support of these like cultural and community groups to help with like paperwork and things like that. And so whereas other communities would have a really hard time setting up shop in places, they can move to small town America.
Yeah.
And they do.
Wow.
And they'll move into like old Dairy Queens, old Pizza Huts, because, and I think this is so interesting, Americans don't make Chinese food at home.
Yeah.
We have white people taco night. We have, homemade pizza night, right? We have whatever we consider American fare.
Yeah.
But like, we don't really make Chinese food at home. If we do, it's because we bought a bag of frozen food at Trader Joe's.
Because Americans are scared shitless of MSG.
Correct.
That's it. Because if you try and make it at home, you're like, oh, this doesn't taste right.
Okay, but what's also so funny to me though is that like Americans, A, do not make Chinese food at home.
Yeah.
B, everyone owns soy sauce. I have never owned a bottle of ketchup in like the last 5 years.
True.
I don't think I've ever owned a bottle of ketchup. I have never been without soy sauce.
That's true. Yeah.
Growing up, there was always soy sauce. It was like right next to the Worcestershire. You had to really check which sauce you were grabbing.
If you fuck up Worcestershire and soy sauce, you have other things going on.
It's a similar but not at all flavor combination.
The texture is very different.
Right. And so these Chinese communities support you as you move to these small towns.
Yeah.
And there might be times where you like go back and there's like cultural events to like tie you all together. But like this tradition continues in these small towns of like the kid works in the restaurant and maybe we live in the back or in a house right
upstairs
next to it,
or
things
whatever,
like that. And for these Chinese immigrants, it's a kind of a great situation because they have the support of this association to help them get set up. They are selling a food that is going to kind of statistically do well in any community that you move to because no one else is doing what you're doing. And it allows you to raise your children.
Yeah.
Like your children are in the restaurant, they work with you, but like this is that community.
It's wild that like literally they didn't produce a ton of chains because the community came together and said, we're not going to make a chain.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, it wouldn't make sense for us to chain this because what also happens is these families move to the United States and they set up these Chinese restaurants to send their kids to college, to like give their kids this chance. And then what you'll see, and this is actually happening right now in the Mississippi Delta, a lot of these Chinese restaurants are closing because the kids went off to college and the kids did what they were supposed to. And now they have careers as like a job other than like.
And a lot of these families are very like, they're units, right? And so they're probably knew from being children that they're going to take care of their adult parents.
And so these places will close.
Yeah.
But if they close, you can let the cultural association know and a new family can kind of like move in and stuff like that. It's a very interesting kind of dynamic. I have 2 stories to share real quick.
Yeah.
First, my freshman year of college, there was this guy, I believe his name was Steven, who also had his dorm room on my floor.
Okay.
And he walked around like he was just the biggest deal in the world.
Classic.
And he was weird. Like, I mean, listen, like weird on a spectrum, not like super weird, but it was like you're a little uncouth, you know, like just a huge Xbox gamer and always had like a Mountain Dew. And it was like, you're not like classic cool guy.
Yeah.
And then I found out his family was the family that owned the Chinese restaurant in his small town. It was the only Chinese American in that entire town.
Yeah.
So everyone immediately knew who he was and who his family was and fucking loved him for it. They're like,
hell yeah,
we love this Chinese restaurant. And so he gets to college and like none of us give a shit that his family owns a Chinese restaurant 3 hours away, right? Like no one cares at all.
But he like has that kind of aura.
That huge ego to him. And then this other story.
So funny.
I know. I was like, what a cool little social moment.
Yeah.
The first time I brought our speech and debate team up to Wyoming, I asked one of the coaches there, I was like, before we drive back to Denver, we love Chinese food. Like, where can we go to get some good Chinese food? And he calls one of his students over and asks her, what's the name of the restaurant your family owns? And she tells us, and I bring my bus of like 18 kids there and supports this Chinese buffet that I know, their kid does speech and debate or whatever.
Right.
And the food was so goddamn good that then for the next decade, we would always bring children there. And I no longer do it because now that I'm at my new school, I'm like, no restaurant can hold 75
you have so many children
at once.
Yeah.
Like that's not fair to do to them.
Yeah.
But both of these are just beautiful little Cheyenne's small. It's a small town.
Yeah, it's a small town. Yeah.
I don't know, have you ever had small town Chinese food?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you just had any wonderful touchy. I clearly love food in this episode.
Oh yeah. Trying to think. I don't think they're okay. There is one across from my elementary school called 135 a scoop or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We had to get a permission slip signed, obviously, to go there. It was 6th grade, but my teacher would take us every year because I think I don't know if the school would pay for it. And so I think this was his gift to the students every year. And we would go out and get lunch or whatever there. But it was just kind of a common thing. This place, I'm not saying this is a stereotype or whatever. This place was not particularly clean, and obviously $1.35 a scoop. I think it's still $1.35 a scoop.
Amazing.
And this story happened in the 2000s.
Right.
So, yeah. But I remember it being really good. So.
The last kind of thing I want to talk about, it kind of pulls everything together. Because of this network, a lot of American Chinese food traditions are created by Chinese chefs in America, specifically fried chicken and its role in modern American Chinese food. Because you'll notice, if you get sweet and sour chicken, that's breaded and fried chicken that you're now just having sauces with.
Yeah.
Almost all Chinese food that has chicken, if it's a to-go container, it's probably fried.
Yeah.
2 reasons for that. If you get a really cheap cut of chicken or whatever, frying it helps cover up a lot of stuff. And second, this family in Springfield, Missouri took boneless chicken, right? Fried it, covered it in a brown sauce and sprinkled some cashews on top of it.
Yeah, they did.
And in 1950s invented cashew chicken.
Cashew chicken was my go-to order along with beef and broccoli.
From Springfield, Missouri.
Where the cheese caves are.
Whoa, actually, wait. I hadn't connected that together, and this is my next food episode.
I think we need to go there
now. We really do. When they were building it, the local Missourians did firebomb the restaurant.
Oh!
They opened anyways, and then they were like, we were wrong. This is great.
Okay, speaking of chicken, complete side note. I've been listening to the series from NPR's Planet Money called Summer School, and they're just teaching you about government spending, but they do an episode on patents and how that was the government's way of encouraging innovation and invention. Innovation. This guy, he's from a family of butchers, and so at some point the butcher shop wasn't doing as well, and he was trying to think of other ways to make money, and he patented a specific cut of meat. And then he ended up being able to make a ton of money from that. And then he continued to patent different cuts of meat. He patented and then sold to KFC the patent for how to cut and make popcorn chicken.
Amazing.
Fucking incredible.
I love
iconic.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's largely it for our Chinese food episode. It's wonderful. It's delicious. It's 100% ours. And it's also kind of something we can eat and feel pretty good about, I feel. Couple notes here at the end that I want to hit. First, we love Chinese food. We love $1.35 meal regardless. An issue Chinese food is still trying to work through in the American diet is Americans don't want to pay a lot of money for Chinese food.
Yeah, which is...
Our perception is that it's supposed to be cheap. And that's changing, fortunately, with a new appreciation of Chinese food.
Yeah.
Also, Chinese food kind of helped pave the way for other Asian foods like Thai food and Japanese food to also find a place in America. Shout out to a Chinese restaurant in my hometown that is a Chinese restaurant that will also do sushi or pad thai. Let them know.
Also, shout out to the California roll that people still haven't processed is not Japanese, despite the name California.
Yeah, but it's uniquely ours.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to share is Chinese Americans are unique in their immigrant origin story compared to others because of their willingness to spread out individually as like a single family unit into small towns.
Right.
Chinese Americans lack a geographic footprint in the same way other communities of color do, right? Like for slavery reasons, the South obviously has a huge black population.
Yes.
For the Mexican-American War and other reasons, like American Western states have huge Hispanic Latino populations, right? And then you have like newer immigrants, like Haitians settle in like a very specific neighborhood in South Florida. Cubans are in Miami. Puerto Ricans who are Americans settle like in Orlando and New York, right? Like when these people come in, they do concentrate in specific neighborhoods. And what's so interesting about like a Chinese immigrant story is you might enter into San Francisco through Chinatown,
but you could end up anywhere.
You're probably not staying there anymore, you know? And actually their success has led to Chinatown being like less of an important cultural hub for Chinese. And Chinatown's kind of shrinking as a result of that, you know?
Which I think is fascinating.
Correct. Also, like some of these communities' inability to solve their housing crisis means lots of people are now looking for affordable housing, and neighborhoods that were neglected are just cheaper than neighborhoods that weren't neglected. And so you also have like the pressures of like, well, a lot of people are looking for affordable housing and they're not bothered by the fact that like their neighbors are Chinese, right? Like they're like amazing. I
would love to live here. Thank
honestly,
you.
I was like, same. Yes. There's a Chinese restaurant outside my door. Beautiful. You know?
Say less.
No, for reals. And so that's kind of the story of Chinese food in America.
That's wild.
Yeah. The original story was going to be Cecilia Cheng. And then I learned her story. She was like, moved to America, immediately was successful. No regrets. And I was like, that's really cool, but there's actually not enough there for me to do a whole episode on you.
And it's word of mouth because people are sharing that they love Chinese food.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was like,
I needed to say it out loud.
Okay, I was like, I thought that was obvious.
No,
also,
it
we
was.
put the food in our mouth. So I'm like, I've never been more on topic in my entire career here.
I have nothing to say to that.
So yeah, like I'm a little peckish. I could really go for some raviolis.
Say your words, man.
It's going to be one of those things where it's like I say that to you in public about like pot
really,
stickers.
You will love a ravioli.
And people are going to be like,
I'm going to punch you in the throat by like time number 10.
I'm going to look like deeply culturally insensitive, and it's just a fun little insight. Okay, she wants me to do the closing speech, so here it is. Find us on social media where Well I Laughed.
Good words.
Find us online, wellilaughed.com. You can submit stories for word of mouth, although we're getting close to the listener episode.
Yeah.
And then the next one is Far From Home. And then the one after that is...
Hypnotic.
Hypnotic, not hypocrite like I thought it was for 2 days because I just read it very quickly and moved on.
Down. Yeah.
If you want to find additional content, you can find us on Patreon, where we are Well I Laughed Podcast, and you can also request cameos. We're getting better and more unhinged, and we would love to wish your dog a happy birthday.
We did for a cat, so might as well round it
honestly, it was our best one.
Yeah.
And until next time, friends, bye.
Goodbye. Love you.